Good afternoon, Jack. CJ, hello, my
Yeah,
brother.
good. How are you, Uncle Devin? Good, thank you.
Good.
Good, good.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you.
Join us, Uncle Devin.
Yeah,
It is my pleasure, JB, to be here in a forum with both yourself and CJ, two outstanding black gentlemen in our community,
We'll
yeah,
take that. We'll take that.
yeah.
and
Take it,
of course two deadly warriors.
Daily
For
Warriors.
the cause of our freedoms and our betterment. Particularly us as men. Even this platform alone is indicative of the lack of a voice that we have out there, particularly around what we do each other. In our communities, like we walk a silent path, really, in a lot of ways.
Mm.
And we just go about our work because it's not, I suppose, about like for it is for a lot of people, unfortunately, medals and honours and honorary professorships and all those types of things. They just give them out like lolly water, them fellas. The gut here. And there's a lot of black fellas I know that get those honorary doctorates or whatever they call them, bloody things.
Mm.
But just to let you fellas know, I do business management studies as well. So
All right.
while I do my day-to-day things and trying to set up and keep maintaining the functionality of the organisation charity that we founded, and then the same time lobbying and same time writing job applications, funding applications, just different fingers in different pies every single day.
Mm.
And these are this is one of those forums like this that I enjoy the most, quite frankly. Talking to other like-minded black warriors that are in the fight against those colonial constructs that oppress us.
Mm.
Well, I must admit, Uncle, I really loved our couple of conversations over the last few weeks. I mean, we did know each other probably about, I don't know, when we were working doing some stuff with the Healing Foundation a few years ago. I got to know you there, and I just absolutely love what you stand for and all the work that you do in community. I mean, there's nothing gammon about what you do, and the work that you actually are doing in community says so much for your spirit, your integrity, and your ethos as well. So,
Thanks, JB. That means a lot, brother. It's from the heart for me. It's from here. Too many of our warriors, young and mature and elderly, have fallen to the wayside now. As we go on, progress, post voice, I suppose, as well. All those external constructs that impact on us, and that's one of those latest ones is naturally the voice.
can I just hold you up there one sec, Unc?
Sure.
We just want to do our acknowledgement to country, and then we'll come back to and want to hear about that the voice again as well.
Please do. Sorry, JB, and sorry to
You're
our
right,
ancestors.
brother. You're right. No worries at all.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah. Okay. So look, just like to acknowledge country here. Pay my respects to elders, past, present, and future. I'm on Yuwi country, which is in central Queensland on the coast, place called Mackay, and I've got a big shout out to my mob up north there in Cairns, the Yirinji people, and also the Buddigul people up in the Torres Straits. That's Dad's mob. And I've got to say before, happy Father's Day for yesterday, guys. So all the best. Yep.
Thanks, CJ.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. Well said. As always, I too would like to acknowledge all the traditional custodians where we all work, meet, and play, and just pay the utmost respect to all our elders, past, present, and any up and coming. And I'm on Gidable country back at home in Maryvale, southwestern Queensland, and I pay tribute to that mob and all their elders and all their ancestors and everyone's ancestors as well. So, and the old people for getting us where we are today, and fighting that fight. And I'd also like to acknowledge my mob, the Muddy Muddy people down there in southwestern New South Wales. And just honour my old people, my ancestors, and thank them as well. So now
Lovely.
we're going to introduce Uncle Devon Chamara. Thanks for joining us, brother. You've been on before.
Yes.
It was at the start of the year. Tell us a little bit about what you're up to, brother, or continue on where you left off with. I think you're going to talk about the voice, and it's such a topical conversation. Like there's so much going on about it that it hasn't ended, and there's so much, I think, trauma that's been caused by it. So fire away, brother.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Look, I suppose getting back to the point that I was trying to make around the voice, it's the voice, I think it was 60-40, that vote around about thereabouts, and 60% against, 40% for, and it's quite indicative, I suppose. It's of what we confront on a regular basis, daily basis, all too common. The for and against is always in those particular statistics, and even in what we do, it's similar in that regards, around having that support that we require, quite frankly, in order to be functional. They go on about. Many people go on, or the mainstream structures and systems go on about, us as Aboriginal people not being functional in their society. But when you actually look at it, they've made us dysfunctional, and they keep us dysfunctional. We quite honestly. A business case, really, as Aboriginal people, Torres Strait Islander people. We're just a business case. We're seen as a business case. We have people like us who self-determine that are out there trying to self-determine our own destiny. We're quite frankly a bloody hindrance to them, which is why we get overlooked, because we're trying to break that mold of the typical business case model where, it's all built on their institutionalization of our people, men, women, and children, incarcerating us, because that's what the model's built on. It's a $1 billion industry, multi-billion-dollar industry, building jails, and it pays a lot of a lot of people, and non-Indigenous people mainly, a job so they can pay their taxes.
Yep.
It's on the back of the black. It's not on the back of the sheep's back no more, but it's always been on the black's back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's right. It's the reverse, isn't it? It's not supply and demand. It's demand and supply.
That's what it is. That's what it is, right, brother. And we're their product.
Yeah, that's
it.
Yeah.
We are their product. And they don't care, they only have these things like closing the gap, close their gap after time. It'll be better, You seriously, brother, it's honestly, it's like, they come back every time with we know the failures that occur, because number one, they don't listen to us.
That's it.
They listen to our brothers and sisters who are doing their best, there in Parliament and all the rest of it, but they're far from the where they started, like you and I. You've got to sell your soul, man, when you go to work for them.
Yeah, that's it.
And when you sell your soul, you've got to leave it at the door, especially if you go to Parliament. It's all about business. Even the governance structures in our own organisations overwhelm us with white practices, and we got to be accountable for those things, those practices every day, man. Every single freaking day. And like I say, you can't even start your own organisation without being subject to the rules and regulations of the overseer.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah. We kind of
and being accountable for it. And you're going to wonder why Blackie's the only signified process that we have is that all the board is black, but we don't even have enough people to have a pool of specialists in our space. Who takes over from us? And we got to look for somebody to take over from us, for example, and keep our work going. But it's not as simple as saying, as it says, just have your succession plan. We got no succession plans, even those types of things. It's like, well, when I go, whatever I put out there is going anyway, because it does anyway. My intellectual property right just gets stolen all the time.
True, Uncle. And I know we've experienced that as well. With you have good intention, and you want to, and we always want to share and share that knowledge that we have, but to not even get acknowledged about it is something that's really probably pretty sad, to be honest, that people will run with what maybe you say to them, and then they'll write everything down and they say, oh yeah, no, we'll get back to you, Uncle Devon. And
yeah happens all the time, brother.
Next minute, there's a program running that's pretty much like yours,
Yeah, so. Exactly, no different. And you look like straight away, as soon as you go booga like that there, because they oh, look at this savage. He's just savage. He's just angry to the Vegemite sandwich. Oh my God, look at him! Look! And then that's what they're doing to you, because you can't respond, even if you respond in the norm, and went back diplomatically and went back like legally way. They just still throw it back in your face. All those things like that. There's always a challenge on a daily basis. Most of our people, a significant amount that are out there that are your listeners now, especially the mature age ones, and even a lot of our elders out there, are just burnt out. Burnt out fighting the system, not going up and down on the same spot, but just fighting the system alone with its own challenges of being in a round peg, and we're trying to fit in a different sized peg in the whole process and the whole outcome of how we work with our people.
Yeah,
and they'll still come along later and do it anyway. They best practice, that bloody best practice. That's a colonial construct in itself again. Best practice. It should be wise practice.
Should be,
because we base all of our work and knowledge on wisdom.
Can I ask you a question? I mean, we've been talking a little bit about men's behaviours programs, and like people like to label these sort of programs as men's behaviour programs. I know you're of the same sort of thinking as what I am, and CJ as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that word behaviour change. I mean, we're dealing with wounded warriors, brother, because of intergenerational traumas. So you can't have those. It's difficult to have that language, like, you know, and recognition of being colonized and then having intergenerational trauma and all these different lovely, pretty words like that put out there, and then you say, okay, it's behaviour change, you know, in the same breath as a white man. In the same breath as a white man, he never been through what I've been through, you know, or his woman's. You know, being married to a black woman's been through the same. It's not about the same as the same marriage principles, you know, that when you're with a black, with your own, you know, Aboriginal women and Aboriginal men being together in a marriage under the blanket, and we only auspit, but blanket auspice process about being, you know, white, in a sense, that, you know, we've got to have a mortgage, we've got to have this. These are all best practices, you know. I'm a miserable white man. I honestly could say that I'd make a freaking miserable white man because I'm not white.
Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't want a white man to think that he can be me either, because they look like clowns. You know, when they try to be us, they just want to be you so much that you just, oh my God, this bloke is a pain in the thing, you know. And I'm sure that's the same worldview that they have of us. I can't. Hard to keep a mortgage payment. Hard to have a big flash motor car. I mean, that's what we have anyway, a big flash motor car. And don't matter about our house, it could be a little tin shack on the river. You know, as long as that motor car's flash, boy, no way. And it's red, you know, and because it goes fast, well, we're right. But we still work. We still work here, for example, with the people, the Murru people, and I think I've mentioned them on a few occasions as well too. But you know, they're 90 years in their colonisation, so that's their infancy with white ways of today. And when you
can I just ask you a question about that? So 90 years in, are that mob still angry about that, or are they?
Well, they don't know how to be angry because they haven't been colonised long enough. They don't know how to. They still, and this is why you can understand why those early colonisers explained all of us as Aboriginal Torres Strait people, like, we got childlike mannerisms. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I observe that because they laugh. They laugh in the face of adversity, but in the wrong context. You know, a lot of the people, they could be getting belittled, which they do often get belittled. And if you haven't had that opportunity to learn the white, you know, system and their language and their ways of and their education, you're just copping it. And that's what's happening. You know, the numeracy and literacies relevant. They make fun of you. They bully you. They belittle you. They put you down. They make you lower than them. And they use all their constructs to do that. They use every single construct that's out there to do that. Their legal systems, their normal business structures. We're always we're always an afterthought in any concept or construct. You know, in this space, working with our men. You know, we don't. In the last 10, you know, maybe good 10 years, solid 10 years, has it been put on the agenda? But it's been put on the agenda by a tsunami and a white capitalist patriarchal ideations. And our identity and all that is not even there. It's It's an afterthought on every single sentence in that regards to family violence, coercive control, you name it. All of those new things that are coming out. It's like we had our meeting, Jack, with the rapid review process that one of the ministers, I forget her name now, forgive me, and they don't even know that you're the only one in those advocacy processes that exist, and you gotta walk across different specialist areas because there's nobody there to do it otherwise. I've been able to say, well, my black operations manager, I want you to go along to that interview. Does that make sense? Like you delegate, like a white CEO would, right? You don't delegate. Where, we're lucky to even have that structure in our organisations. Like you and I and CJ got to do all of it, most of the heavy lifting, most of the advocacy, most of this, most of that, and most of this. And they still don't even get it. The white fellows, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
They still don't get it, and they don't stop to think one iota of what I'm trying to say now about what we go through in our day, and most of that is fighting racism.
Yeah.
Most of that is contending with racist worldviews, policies, and procedures, and overviews, and even then with our participants in our programs, with their lived experience of all that, our lived experience is the same. So there's no best practice in that. There's a holistic best practice in that we were all colonised. And the redcoats and whoever else and the governance structures that they introduced and all the diseases and everything else are still prevalent and relevant today. And the psychological warfare and that all exists today in exactly the same manner that they were introduced onto our lands when they first landed on our shore.
Yeah.
And that's a sad indictment on them, not us. We're survivors. I mean, but we can't keep saying all the time we're survivors. There has to be a shift from their perspective, and that voice, like I was saying, was some shift to it, but regrettably, again, what they did there with that shift is, if you run a business like you, Jack, or even you, CJ, you run an organisation, your marketing, for example, has to be spot on. Your marketing, right, with the product, because that's the sales models pitch that is another white construct. So we have to convince our funders, we have to convince our participants, we have to convince their families, we have to convince our communities, we have to convince their communities, their shires, and all those things that the product that we're trying to sell is a bloody workable product, right? And yet, we don't get any financial backing to do that. It's all on our own bat. And in that regards, that marketing process for that voice debacle was bullshit. There was none. There was none. There was no marketing whatsoever. It was dropped on us all, including mainstream Australia. But for us, it was like, oh, the voices in the Northern Territory. I live here in the Pilbara. Even the demographic is different.
Yeah.
But every time they put something up about the voice, it was our brothers or sisters in the Northern Territory in traditional dress, traditional sense, overview of what is traditional and what is culture. I didn't see once did not see once the urbanised blackfella being portrayed in a community setting, and his white neighbour down the road, or his 3, 4, or 10 other white neighbours and ethnic neighbours around him, looking at what it is for them and what it is for him, as opposed with all those different neighbours and no other black neighbours in that street. You know what I mean? You would have got a different worldview in that regards.
Yeah.
But even like we doing work in rural and remote communities, and in the lead up to The Voice, I mean, we were in communities, and communities knew nothing about The Voice. Like we asked them about The Voice, and they thought we were talking about the TV show, The Voice, or something like that. But they didn't know anything about what was happening with regards to the referendum. So it was.
Well, we were taken for granted, brother, in that sense, because the worker bees were just said, well, you're in the hive. The queen bee says we're going to have a voice, and now you go out and spread the word. Go and pick pollen. More or less that was the concept of it. We were taken for granted. But yet, if there's the opposite, say for example, if there's an election, people get paid to do that stuff. Go out and be scrutineers and whatever else, and spread the message and do this and do that. And they should have done a lot more of that. They should have started this process back when they were not in power, Labour, because they set us up to fail, man. They literally set us up to freaking fail, and it was set up deliberately, as far as I'm concerned, because so far they got jack shit in response to it.
Yeah.
What have they done? They're hanging us out to dry, brother.
Yeah.
And then our esteemed Minister Bernie, has left the stage. Melinda McCarthy, sister girl from that way, Northern Territory, is on, and I haven't heard nothing really from her as a representative on behalf of us, as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. They're just like a mantelpiece or a wood ornament, at the moment. And
it's a shame, isn't it? Yeah.
Of course, CJ.
It is terrible. Yeah, it is. It is terrible. When you're talking now, I don't know why I've got this picture of a Trojan horse. It's it's been pushed at us, and all of a sudden, we copped the wrong end of everything because we think it's great, but
we jumped out of the horse and they were all ready for us. They just mowed us down, brother. They knew it was coming. There was no surprise.
Yeah. But you know what? I'll tell you what I saw, and when they talk about culture and they talk about Aboriginal people, it's okay when it benefits them. Okay, what I say.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's a financial benefit for them. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we use our own culture, we use our own, and it's all about us. It's all about not so much the benefit as for us, but it's actually how we connect and how we create, relationships and things like that. I saw a bloody, I don't know where it was, must have been up in Cairns or Rocky or something. Had a police car with all Aboriginal artwork over it. I'm thinking, geez, there's a Trojan horse if I ever seen one,
Oh, brother, hallelujah, praise our Creator. That's the same as a Qantas aeroplane.
Yes, that's it.
They take their artists, they fly it across the country. You tell me that those people on that plane, those pilot and those those hostesses and whoever else, go around telling the people who ask them in another part of the world, they just make themselves. That's deception, and they're stealing a culture because they are culturalists. So they're taking hold of our cultural, what's it called? Fiefdom, our reality, and in that
Yeah.
sense of what it means for us as having a culture. And quite frankly, they've already done that over many, many years.
Mm.
White people making boomerangs now and selling them in, little stalls here and with a little painting on it, and so they've actually stolen already our identity in so many different ways. Like you say, and that Trojan horse is global now. So it's not local; it's global because that plane flies all over the world. And the first thing people say, "Oh, that's a pretty plane, look there," like the Trojan horse. I like that concept, brother. And they say, "Oh, that Australia, that's the Aboriginal people." And then a white shining people get off like shiny ones, white as snow, right? And they think, "Oh, well, I thought they would have been a little bit darker."
Yeah.
I thought they would have been have a little bit more darker skin tone. Mustn't be the case. And they would be more likely to tell you, yeah, we've had to Shanghai that culture and take hold because they're all dying out.
Yeah.
And we have to keep it going.
Yeah.
And they ask, you sit around the fire. Oh, yeah, the barbecue's there. I mean, sorry, the fire.
Yeah.
I mean, the barbecue. I mean, that's how they're going. Like they got no idea. Art is art. It's in itself is a space that signifies our culture. Time over since beginning of time, and the meaning of it, and the song lines that are tied to it, the totems that are tied to it, the tribes that are ingrained in that whole process. It's one whole entity. It's not just art on its own. And that's like us as a people. We come not just as individuals. We come as a people. And that people is our families. Yeah, good. Sorry, JB, you've got a comment up there. That's just come through, brother.
Yeah.
I can't see it. Can you see it, CJ?
Ballina, yeah. Aboriginal culture is big money making spin for Ballina now.
Ballindas, yeah.
Yeah, for my wife. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It
Sends the wrong message, really, because it's not really what's happening, is it?
That's right.
It's not really what's happening, in Australia. Yeah.
No.
It's still a colony. It's still a bloody penal colony.
Of course. And you got to have a be an interpreter or something like that, or a good little blackie jackie to be put on their boats and taken around the world, and then you're lucky to get back. And anyway, if you do, sort of thing, it's still the same as that, brother. Today, they put you on their boat, or in this case is their plane, their ship now is their planes. Take you for a little tour and a tourism, like they did with our poor brother, God rest his soul, that man who had the most angelic voice that you could ever ask for, boy. He passed away in the long grass,
Yeah.
What man goes to the highest levels of white artistry around music, and then is allowed to pass away in the long grass?
Yeah.
And that's where he started. That's where he's discovered when he went out. And you know what, man? He's a black man. That's what it is. Only a black man can go to the heights, dizzying heights of a white construct, and then just be discarded like, he's just a slave to his demons. And that's what we a lot of us are. We're a slave to even as us as men. We're a slave to the demon of having the ignominy of having our land ripped from us, our manliness from us to protect our women and children, right in the beginning, and stripped naked, basically, and made to walk in front of everybody and made a laughing stock. Made a laughing stock of in front of our children, and the belittlement that continues to this day of us as, as warriors, well, fallen warriors now, because we don't have much to stand for. As a collective, as warriors, even though we have a huge army of our men, and still as political prisoners, and our women. That's all it is. It's still a concept of being locked up as political prisoners, because they don't toe the line. They might, steal a little trinket here, take a little trinket there, and then they're going to jail. Or they got social issues out. So I'll give an example. We just lost another 17-year-old boy here in WA, in Banksia, right? 17 years old, and he took his own life. And he had, all we got was the same verbal diarrhea from all the white people. The same verbal diarrhea. We're fixing it. We sorry. All this same diatribe come out, and yet they don't listen to anybody about how to fix the problem.
That's right.
Any of the people that should own that, because we own the trauma. But see, have they sent in any or invested any money in that sense straight away into the community being able to access, psychosocial care? After that, no, because it's all individualised in that sense. Oh, yes, we'll send it in for his immediate family, but yeah, you're not his family.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I'm being facetious here. The whole thing about, you'll hear governments say they need to ask for help. The family needs to ask for help before we can help. Do something about it. I mean,
Yes,
can help. Like
yes.
you got kids committed, taking their own lives. You've got kids having babies. You got kids running amok.
But don't forget too the sexually transmitted disease going throughout it, ravaging our interior and our country today with syphilis. And the fact that still is allowed to permeate in our communities, but in mainstream communities, it's just eradicated straight away. Let's get rid of that. It's the same principle on how we, how we are. Men that use violence, whether they be black or are sick. We look at the men that use violence as being very, very sick, and that sickness is catchy, so it's intergenerational trauma, and we need a treatment for it.
Yeah,
and it should be put on. It should be put under the health portfolio in that regards. That treatment because that's where the victim always ends up.
Yeah,
bruised, battered, and all those types of things as a victim, and sadly, may end up as a person that's passed.
yeah.
And the same with our young people, being sent to jails and then suiciding. So the separation of the powers, so to speak, is they try to box it. They're trying to put it in different little boxes to dissect every little thing. Put you in a box. Put your toe in a box. Put that second toe in a box. Put that, of your 5 toes, all your 5 fingers, all in different boxes, so you're all in pieces. And they try to put you back like a Swiss clock.
Yeah.
Back together, but we're holistic. And how long we've been saying that word, holistic.
Yeah.
And they still don't get it in that regard. So, look, for me, the Healing Centre, we look at, like I say, the men that use violence, particularly our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander brothers. They are sick. We need a vaccine to treat them. just like any vaccine. And that's the only way you're going to make inroads into that process is change that white blindfold, give a, at looking at this problem because this issue in our community, excuse me, because they want zero tolerance. Right? They want it to stop straight away. And you tell me, brother, how easy that's going to
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all know from all the work that the three of us do and many others do as well that it's not an easy fix, and there's so much more complexity to what to what the issues are, and I think sometimes people don't look at digging that little bit deeper to find out what's going on, and the trauma behind it. So I think it's something that's
Well, I ask people, like I was saying to you before, Jack. I ask the people that I go out to there and talk to, mainly the Ballanders or the Gadias or the Wagballas or the non-Indigenous people. I ask them, can you tell me, any of you fellows, can you tell me what a reformed perpetrator of violence looks like? And if we aren't even asking that question, then and we don't have the right, the exact response to it, then that shows you how far behind we are. Because we're not even dealing with that yet. We don't know what we want. That's what that means to me. We just predominantly and holistically want it to stop. Like you can just flick a light switch on and then flick a light switch off. And that hasn't worked, has it? That's simply because we're not asking the right questions in that regard, as far as I'm concerned. It's like the question I asked: what does a reformed perpetrator look like? If they're not even considering that, then how do they know what to run out for as a methodology? Or you just throw methodologies at it. It's like that little game in a circus that pops its head up and you knock it down with a hammer, and another head comes up over here and you knock it down. Then another head pops up there and you knock it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And all you have to do, if a black fella come along, they just rip the machine out and then turn it upside down and all the heads fall out. You know what I mean? And it sits on the ground. Oh, now pop your head up, mate. You see? To give it an analogy, I mean.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, the analogy.
Yeah. I think the humanity's gone out of everything. You know what I mean? They don't care. People don't care.
Absolutely gone out of it. It's a human right to want to heal yourself and change yourself. We got a lot of men out there that want to do that. The system and the structures aren't there allowing that because it's geared, it's construed and structured so we go to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200. And that's what
happens too often. Yeah, it happens all the time. Happens too often.
We
believe it's the truth.
Yeah. Well, what's our incentives?
It's like a lie. You can tell a lie. Yeah. You can tell a lie for 200 years, and it's still a lie. It's not the truth. You know what I mean?
Of course.
People still believe in a lie. You know what I mean?
Brother. Yes.
Yes. It is. Yeah. It's wrong, and it's so easy to say, it's not my problem. It's the Aboriginal problem.
Exactly right.
It's too easy to say that. Let it go.
Yeah.
The other issue is too, though, that you've got people sitting in their offices, in say Sydney and Melbourne and Canberra and these places, making decisions for people in every community in Australia, whether it be urban, remote, rural, whatever you want to look at.
Yes.
And they don't take into account the great diversity of our mob.
Yep.
Yes, there's similarities. Of course there is.
Yep.
But there's also some many differences as well. So.
Well, they romanticise us too much, brother. Like we just spoke about The Voice. And and what that process of putting out their message and advertising who we were as a people was one tiered. There are so many tiers to us as a people. I mean, like you say, there's the when Australia when Aboriginal Australia was stolen, and we don't forget Terra Nullius and all the rest of it. So we didn't exist up to that was wiped out. And then native title came in, and they hijacked that. So they hijacked everything that what we determine as our own self-determination. They jump on board, and then they put in white masters to run it, like the overseer or the protector. The old protectors on missions. It's the same mentality, brother. And we still got that today. That we still have that protector system. That they know what's best for us to protect and keep people away from. And they just make them. What's that? Black cladding. They just black clad those things. They put up a nice piece of art. They might put in a black face and say, "Oh, there you go. That's your protection." But above that is a white man or white woman that oversees it. You can guarantee, or a white protector, right up to the Prime Minister. Right up to the Prime Minister. And until we dismantle all those constructs, which quite frankly Australia has to do. That's why they voted that voice out, because they know, and they're not prepared to go back to the beginning and be reminded of who they really are. Convicts that took over our land. And that's what they really are. I had this old man, I had an experience just the other day. I was on the airplane, I was coming home, I was walking through the that security thing, which I reckon, by the way, we should all get an exemption from. That's just me. I'm Aboriginal. Look out of my way, I'm coming through, you fellas. And oh yeah, you're right, sir. Come through, sir. Anything else we can do for you? Yes, just don't talk to me, please, and stay out of my way. That should be the exemption, honestly. But you think, how far away from that? But I went to pick my bag up, which I thought was my bag, right? Because they did look. There was a similarity, and you're under duress because everybody's going through and doing this, and you want to keep an eye on your stuff. And I inadvertently went to pick this bag up. Well, man, this convict just went off his dial. He was in the mature age, and he just shouted out top of his voice, "Hey, what are you doing? That's not your case, and it doesn't look nothing like your case." It was like he was shouting out on his veranda saying, "That's not your car. What are you doing next to my car? Hey, what are you doing past my walking past my yard? Don't look here." If they seen a black fella looking towards him, looking towards his property. Quite frankly, the opposite of that is, gun holes in the house and shooting at you. That mentality. Because that was the mentality that still exists as far as I'm concerned, particularly in the West. I can tell you right now, and I would say probably in Mackay as well, because they both the same way they treat us, brother. The same laws, same criminal code, same protector system, Queensland in Queensland and WA.
I don't think it's much better here either.
It's not, brother. It's not. I'm telling you right now, it's not. And that's all over in that sense for us as Aboriginal men. Where's our right to be those protectors? We protect our women from racism, protect our children from racism. Just protect our families from some irate twit, whether he be black or white in that regard, it's going off his nana. But when it's a non-Indigenous person, he's belittling you and everything about you and your generations of existence, since the beginning of time. He knows exactly what he's doing. And yet, how do we respond? They know we don't have a response because they know there's more of them to start heckling you and looking at you, boy. Because that's what happened in my incident with that white convict. Like I said, mate, you don't have to carry on like a convict. As I said to him, because I know you think I'm carrying on like a boom. I told him straight to his face. I said, but if you're going to go with the boom, man, let's get it on here. I got as much right to be here as you, and you want to challenge me in my space because you think I violated your space. And you want to embarrass me, and you want to draw attention to me, like there's not all of that already. The only thing that was missing is that he never called for security in that instance. And I was watching for security. I waited for him to come from behind and jump clean on me. And then taser me and then put me up and put his boot on my neck. So, we got this blackie. He looks like a terrorist anyway. He looks like, and their idea of any terrorist is just bloke who got a big beard.
Yeah.
That's their small-mindedness. He looked like Osama bin Laden's mate. Just because I walk around with a beard, for goodness sakes. I love my facial endurance.
I've got to say, Unc, it's pretty impressive.
It is.
It's my identity. What other thing if I don't have an we got people that put pin like a pin cushion on themselves. Our younger people, And I say to them, just grow some facial hair, man. That should do it for you.
I've got to say it's impressive. Very impressive.
Oh, thank you, brother. Yeah, thank you. I put a lot of, this is my only thing that I spend some money on, and that I feel comfortable in my skin.
Yeah, that's it.
Feel comfortable in my skin because simply because we all, other issue we got as men is our identity crisis under a white masculine identity.
Tell us a little bit about that, Unc. I'm really, I want to hear a little bit about. I'd love to hear a little bit about, because we've spoken about it a few times about a sense of belonging and all those sort of things. So tell us a little bit about that.
Brother, we need our own masculine identity, right? And at the very least, we need to be together, coming together, investment by governments, to come to give us that money to be able to just come regularly every year to talk about developing and producing and putting our own masculinity out there for our young people, us, our mature age, our elders. How long do you think that we can maintain this? Because culture and practices aren't a masculinity; they are a way of life, which we have done since the beginning of time. But to walk in two worlds, where most things are just around a typified masculine identity, we don't have one. Our masculine identity from the white concept is we're savages. We are beastly individuals that rape and murder our women. And that's what it's all about today, brother. That's why we get that afterthought about where we are in this process with dealing and working with and for and alongside our men who are just broken spirited in a lot of sense because they have nothing to grasp. It's like being in a sea of, we washed up. This is what I say: washed up in a gender bias tsunami, and then we drown in a capitalist patriarchal soup. And we don't even have a life raft.
Yeah. And brother, what happened to the narrative when back in time we're talking back in Clone, when people landed in tall ships and our men stood up and fought and protected their women and their families and
yes.
that. Okay, what happened there? They went for us, didn't they? They had the far superior weapons, all that sort of stuff, and tried to kill out the men.
Yep.
And then, it's the women that stood strong, I suppose. So, but at the same time, brother, at the same time we talk about that, domestic violence, sexual abuse, all the bad things that can happen to women happen because these convicts, these people, are doing it.
Yes, brother.
These land barons are doing it to our women.
Okay, and I'll put it to you like this, JB. You know, when we go out hunting and doing those manly exercises in the two worlds we live in today, for example, you know, we got all of those provisions of what is means to be colonised now. So we got a motor car, and we jump in a motor car and we take our Engel fridge and we put all those things, and off we go. We might have a rifle, you know, and off we go. We go and have a camp. But even so, it's still a manly time, right? And so we go out and we do our hunting thing. Now you cross-reference that with pre-colonisation, and you would find that to walk the distances that would have taken to a hunting ground or to hunt a particular, it wasn't just open slather. It was a practice that you would hunt your food, and initially what you'd need to do is track it, and you would pay it homage in that regards, because we didn't live on mass, you know, like factory, what do you call it, produce that is put in factories now and mass produced. Our kangaroos, you know, our fish, all of these come with song lines and prayer lines and dances, and they were handed down from generation to generation to generation. And that process would take at least 11 months of the year, where we weren't allowed to be in the same camp as women. So when people ask or say to me, that's how I see it, perceive it to be, how were we violent as Aboriginal people? Well, the first thing I say is, well, I can't say really because I wasn't there. I'm here in today's world, and yes, we are violent. Now, and then I have a further reason to say as to why it could be that we are violent, right? But if you could take that back in a time machine, go back to those pre-colonial times, 11 months of the year we'd followed the seasons, right? And in each, I would imagine there were 6 seasons in our culture. We follow those 6 seasons. And there's only one mating season in that process. Like all of our totems indicate that there's only one mating season. So we come together for mating season. We come together for trade. We do this. We follow the seasons around, so we don't overburden, you know, our food source, number one, and our privilege to be on country, number 2, and our waterways, number 3. Naturally, now today, the whole thing about colonisation is you're stuck in the one freaking place. You put a bit of concrete down on the ground, you put bricks and mortar around it, and you stay there forever and a freaking day. And those things are an absolute affront to what represents our culture today. But yet we get that constantly as Aboriginal people. We get a culture put at us from the history books through to the, you know, to all the people that have researched us and all the papers that are written about us. Same in this context today. We are you know, living in 2 worlds, and they think from a what do you call it, a romanticised view that we go back to that with our lap boomerang and spear, and we put our keys up there and we hang up there, and then we chuck a blanket over our house and say, I'll see you in a couple of weeks and I'll be back in my white world. I'm just going into my black world here. I'm going hunting and all that sort of thing. Come on, wife. And you've got all the little pickaninnies running along behind you like they say. That's how they, seriously, bro, that's how they paint us. That's how they romanticise us. Yet it's nothing like that. We don't have that privilege no more. We are predominantly and constantly in the white world facing white challenges every single frickin' day. And we're doing it with a black blindfold.
Can I just read out a comment from Brother Daryl Andy? He said, I think Aboriginal people should see white men for what they really are, not the other way around. What they brought here, how they cleaned away before themselves to set up their lifestyle, and how it offended us, which caused us to look at our laws that they broke, doing so and never answer for. Thanks, Brother Daryl.
Absolutely, brother. Hallelujah to you, my brother. That's all I can say, and that's hit the nail on the head. And those are our brothers, our warriors out there that know this, but we are political prisoners. We are stifled. Our ability to organise, strategise, all of those things are inhibited.
Yeah.
We're still seen as the natural enemy in this country.
Yeah.
So there's still a war. There's still a warlike worldview over us from the masculinity, which is so toxic. They're the ones that they are the ones that lead the way in how they treat their women. They own their women as property.
I reckon we're going to have a get you back on again, Unc, because I want to hear about that toxic masculinity as well. It's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, I think, and I think we need to. I think we need to explain and tell people what that really means to to us, and so we'd love to have you back on because we're just about out of time, Unc. But
Of course, my brothers.
it's been fantastic having you on, and I always love listening to you and hearing what you got to say, and I always look forward to our yarns, brother. So thank you.
One of the things, and I'll leave you with this, my brothers, is you probably understand then, because I forget what it's called now, repetitiveness is the language of the traumatized. So think about that.
I just got one more comment for you. It's from Cassandra Gilbert. Cassandra's over in Broome, does a lot of work with our mobs over there and does some fantastic work. She just said, I so love listening, being a white woman, listening to your truth, Devon.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Cassandra.
And she also said, please let me know when you have your next yarn. So
yeah, well, there you go, brother. You're listeners. So I support what you're doing, and CJ continue to do. Like I say, it's your platform. You look out. In our language, you say aliwa. Look out, because there'll be some whiteys wanting to Shanghai it, and kidnap the whole process and own it, and then you fellas will be just servantees. And because that's what happens. So try not to get too much of a big following, because that's big money.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Well, one more thing before we go. It's actually Cassandra's birthday today. So happy birthday, Cassandra.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Cassandra.
Thank you.
Have a safe and prosperous day.
Yes,
thank you. And Jan Hogan also joined us. She's over in Wales, Uncle Devon. So thanks for joining us, Jan. And she said, great guest. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Jan. All the way in Wales, it's a long way to come. So thank you kindly. Yeah, absolutely. See, it's good Ballanders or white ballers or guttiers like yourselves, ladies, that make a huge difference in our space.
Definitely.
Because we don't have too many supporters out there. It's only our families and our wives, and our mums and our dads and our nieces and nephews, and they're all traumatized as well. So it's a ring around the rosy sort of thing, for us as men. But the thing about masculinity is what are we teaching our sons? I'll close on that. That's why we need our own masculinity. So and we need to identify that, not just me, but we as a collective need to identify what that masculinity looks like in its own content and its own right in a colonial Australia. And we need to not park, but we need to just make sure our culture and our practices are safe. But we need to have the same mechanisms in the mainstream Australia or mainstream society, and that's a masculinity.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And Cassandra said, I am family. So, yes, you are, Cassandra.
You are
a big part of our family. So
hallelujah. Thank you. Thanks, CJ. Thanks, JB.
Thanks,
Yeah, and so we'll have to organise to get you on again, brother, because it's just been fascinating listening to your stories once again, and you know, your knowledge and your wisdom that you share so freely. We'd love to have you back on, so we'll work that out. And yeah, thank you again. Thank you, CJ. Thanks
Thank you,
everyone
brother.
for watching. Have a great week. Have a great night, and happy birthday, Cassandra.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you kindly all. Take care, all of yous, and power and strength to yous all.